Welcome. In today's video we will see how important is communication in embedded system. We know that it is essential for the system or essential for the controller in communicating with various subsystem as well as with the external world. So for any given embedded system or product, the communication interface can be broadly classified into two different perspectives. So first we call it as onboard communication interface or device level communication interface, and the second one is external communication interface or is also known as product level communication interface. It is necessary for us to understand properly how these two perspectives have been developed in the interfacing of communications. Otherwise, there is a chance that we will confuse between the required communication interfaces for a given application. For that, what we need to understand initially is we should know that an embedded product, when I say embedded product, the entire system from the input device may be a sensor to the final output device may be an actuator. So this entire product is combination of different types of small components arranged together on a PCB or a printed circuit board, right? So I repeat, what we need to understand is that an embedded product is combination of different types of components arranged on a PCB. In that case, it is required for us to communicate between these components lying on the PCB itself. There should be a proper communication channel between the components within the PCB. Right? So such communications are known as device level communication or onboard communication. We will see examples for this later, but let us first try to understand what is onboard and offboard. On the other hand, most of the embedded system, based on application I am speaking, will be part of a large distributed system, and they may require interaction and communication or data transfer between various other devices or modules which are not part of this PCB. For example, in car, the previous video we have discussed various monitoring and controlling systems which you can see on a passenger car. Maybe your embedded system, your monitoring system will be with the embedded system, in the sense your monitoring system will be on board and your actuator will be somewhere away from this system. It is part of the embedded system, I agree with, but it will not be on the same board. For example, an automatic light sensor, your controller will be near to your dashboard, for example, but the ambient light sensor will be near the bonnet maybe. So there is a distance of approximately 80 centimeter or 90 centimeter from that controller board to your sensor. In such cases, we say that we need a product level communication interface or an external communication interface, because it is no more an onboard communication. I am communicating with a system, a component which is part of my system, but it is not on the PCB, it is away from my PCB. There are other very good examples which will make this more clear to you. We'll see that later. Or if you want to know now, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, radio frequency, all these are examples of external communication interface. Coming to onboard communication interfaces, so I already explained you, such a communication refers to different communication channels, right, or buses for interconnecting various integrated circuits and peripherals within the embedded system. So the various communication interfaces for onboard communications which are available now are inter-integrated circuit bus, which is written as I2C and pronounced as I2C. Okay, so I have that I2C way of communicating. I have then SPI way of communicating, that is serial peripheral interface bus. This is a technology. Then we have the UART, which is nothing but universal asynchronous receiver transmitter protocol for communicating. Then one wire interface and parallel interface. So these are the different types of interfaces for onboard communications what we have. So as per VTU course syllabus, I will be touching upon the first two ways of communication, that is integrated, that is I2C and SPI. Coming to inter-integrated circuit bus communication interface, it is a synchronous bidirectional half duplex 2-wire serial interface bus. It's not complicated, it's very straightforward. What you need to remember is it's a synchronous bus. So the operation is controlled by a clock signal. The second thing to remember here, it's a bidirectional bus. It can carry data on the same bus in both the directions. That is the meaning. Third one, but it is half duplex. It is not duplex. It is half duplex. What does half duplex mean? Half duplex means that yes, my bus can carry data on both the directions, but at a given point of time, it allows only one directional communication at a given time. At the same time, I cannot use the same bus for sending the data on either side. I repeat, the bus has the capability of carrying data both the directions, but at a given point of time, at a time, you can transfer data only to any one direction. And here the data transfer is not parallel, it is serial. Bit by bit the data is transferred. So the next point to remember here is an I2C bus is made up of two buses. The first one is known as SCL and the second one is known as SDA. You can see here in this figure, this is SCL bus and this is SDA bus, where SCL stands for serial clock line. Serial clock line, and SDA stands for serial data line. Serial clock bus and serial data bus. So as the name suggests, SCL will be responsible, that is the serial clock line will be responsible for generating synchronization clock pulses. And SDA, that is the second bus, will be responsible for transmitting the serial data across the devices. So SDA will basically carry the data. Now see here, these two buses which is available for me for communication, if I follow I2C protocol, the one side is connected to my controller, whichever controller I am using. For example, you are using Cortex M3, okay, fine. So that will be acting as master, and the devices which I need to communicate will be treated as a slave. Okay, so it is going to use a master slave system or a master slave protocol or a master slave way of communication interface, I2C. So the master and slave, both of these devices can act as either transmitter or receiver. That doesn't mean that always the master has to send the data. Master can request the data to the slave. When I say slave device, here you can see there is an example, EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable. Memory is one kind of slave. You can have so many components here. All the system components what we have discussed so far can be a slave. So these devices can send data to master on the request of master. That's why this is known as master. You cannot simply send data, or you cannot simply keep data on this bus unless the master allows to do so. So this controller, that's why this controller or the master is known as brain of the system. It is going to control the entire operation. But there is another point here to remember. Regardless whether a master is acting as transmitter or receiver, the synchronizing clock signal, right, which has to be there in this SCL, will be always generated by the master device. That's very important. This SCL bus will be always controlled by the master controller. Even though the master may be at the receiving end, doesn't matter. Also, you should remember that in I2C communication, you can have more than one master. In this figure, you know that you have seen one master here and slave 1, slave 2, n number of slaves. That is also possible, as well as you can have multiple masters. You can have master 1, master 2, and you can have 6 to 7 slaves, or means n number of slaves. Now let us try to see what is the procedure of communication in I2C bus. So this is already being discussed. So as I told, I2C supports multi-masters on the same bus. Now let us discuss the sequence of operations for communicating with an I2C slave device or I2C slave device. So before getting to that discussion, you should always understand that the address to various I2C devices, right, in an embedded system is assigned and hardwired at the time of the designing of the hardware itself. Because I cannot, in the embedded system environment, I cannot call the devices by the name or by the labels like slave 1, slave 2, slave 3 kind of. Because there is a proper communication protocol. We are not getting very deep into it, but you should understand that there will be a binary address, okay, binary bits of address assigned to each slave or each subsystem which I am going to communicate. So I will be communicating with these devices based on the addresses given to those system. That's very important to understand. Okay, so let us see the sequence of operations for communicating. So the first one is the master should pull the SCL, that is the clock line, to high. So this basically tells you that the master is initiating a communication by sending a high pulse to clock line. This will be immediately followed by master pulling the SDA, that is the serial data line, to low. So this is a start condition for communication. When I say pull, I am using the word pull because you might have seen in the figure, I am using a typical value pull up resistors of 2.2K. Okay, so for TTL family, basically you should be able to have a VCC of plus 5 volt, or if it is a CMOS family device, then you should be able to supply plus 3.3 volt at VCC. For these values, the typical values of the pull up resistors will be 2.2K. Okay, so because of that, the output lines of the bus in the ideal state will be high, always high, because you have this pull up resistor. Okay, so I have to pull it down. To make it low, I have to basically pull it down. So you can refer the figure which we have discussed just now. So I have to basically pull down to make this low. So first the master, which is my controller, will make the SCL to high pulse, then it is going to pull down the data line to low. So this is basically start condition. Now as I told you, there will be an address assigned in binary for each device to be communicated or slave to be communicated. So whatever the address I have for that particular system, so address of that slave will be communicated over this SDA line. So the address will be kept on data line by the master. So that will be the next step. So after that, I have to generate clock pulses on SCL. Now initially I have kept, in the sense the master has kept this SCL to high position, which will be a continuous long pulse, high pulse. Now I have to generate a clock pulse at SCL which will have high pulse and low pulses, continuously high pulse and low pulse depending upon the frequency at which the controller is operating. Keep that in mind. So I am going to generate that much frequency of clock pulse on SCL. That is the next step. So what should be following? So it will be immediately followed by a read or write bit. Okay, so the master device is basically going to send a read or write bit. When I say read or write bit, if bit value is 1, then it is read operation, and if bit value is 0, then it will be write operation. So according to the requirement. So whether master is going to read from the slave, that is taking the information from the slave, or giving the information to the slave. Based on that, you will have read operation or write operation. So if bit value is 1, it is a read operation, and bit value is 0, it will be a write operation. So once this is done by the master, next master usually wait for the acknowledgement from the slave device. So basically, once the master requests for the communication, if the slave is working properly, then the selected slave, when I say selected slave, the address is already sent here. So that particular slave sends an acknowledgement bit over the SDA line, telling the master that, telling the controller that, hey master, I am ready for the work. Okay, so this will be immediately followed by sending or receiving of data by the master over the SDA line. Okay, when I say 8-bit data, basically this I2 bus is designed for carrying maximum of 8 bits of data only. We know that we are dealing with a 32-bit controller. If you are dealing with a 32-bit controller, you can have an I2C bus of 32. Modern communication protocols allows 32-bit word, that is 32-bit word communication. Okay, but as per the reference what I have referred to make this PPT, it is showing me 8-bit. That's why I have used this 8-bit data. You should not confuse with it. If you are using the same bus, you should be able to communicate 4 times, because you need to send 32-bit data. 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, 4 times. So matter is going to send or receive this 8-bit data over the SDA line. I am talking if you are using a Cortex M3, which is a 32-bit processor. Nice. So once the master sends or receives this 8-bit data over the SDA line, you should have this acknowledgement signal again. So acknowledgement signal will be from the master or slave here, depending upon whether it is a read operation or write operation. Okay, if we consider it as a read operation, so I am going to send one bit to that particular slave, then I am going to take the data from the slave. So once I take the data from the slave, master is going to send the acknowledgement to slave that I have received the data. Once this one-way communication is over, remember it's a one-way communication because it is half duplex system. So once this one-way communication is over, master terminates this operation by pulling SDA line back to high. So all these started when master pulled down SDA to low. Now if the master pulls this SDA line to high, the meaning is the operation is terminated. So this is basically the sequence. Any communication protocol involving master and slave, you can find these kind of sequence of operations. So what is very important here is acknowledgement signals. Unless you get acknowledgement from the device which you address, the communication will not proceed. So next, what we need to discuss is the second type of onboard communication interface, that is nothing but serial peripheral interface or SPI. Coming to this way of communication, that is SPI, serial peripheral interface bus. If your communication interface is using this protocol, you need to understand that SPI is a synchronous bidirectional full duplex 4-wire serial interface system. So it is synchronous, it is controlled by a clock signal, it is bidirectional, it can take data on both the sides, and it is full duplex. When I say full duplex, it means it can transfer or receive data on either direction at the same time. Thereby, it is a 4-wire system. Previously, we have seen that it was a 2-wire. I2C was a 2-wire system. One wire was for clock control and the second wire was for address or data. Right? So basically, we say it as a data bus. But when you come to SPI, you have a 4-wire system. That's the only change. Okay, it is going to be a full duplex system. There was an half duplex system. Here it is going to be a full duplex system. So the communication speed has doubled now. At the same time, you can send the data and receive the data. And like the previous system, it is going to be okay, master slave system. But here one important point: SPI is usually single master multi slave system. Usually. It is not restricted to. Okay, usually it is single. The previous system, I2C system, was multiple master, multiple slave system. You can afford to have more than one master there. But here, usually you go with a single master, a single controller, and so many subsystems. But you can develop or you can improve SPI, you can improvise SPI to have more than one master also. But generally, we don't do. Okay, now since it is a full duplex 4-wire system, it may have 4 signal lines for communication. In the previous, we have only SCL and SDA. Here we will have MOSI, MISO, SCLK and SS, 4-line system, where MOSI stands for master out, slave in, MISO stands for master in, slave out, and serial clock, this is same as SCL in the previous system, and you have this slave select SS separately. In the previous system, that is I2C bus system, we had this serial clock, that SCLK, and one more SDA, that's it. The slave select was done through SDA, and communication was also, the data transfer was also done through SDA. But now we require 2 lines, that is MOSI and MISO for communication. Why so? because it is a full duplex system. Master may be sending some information to slave, at the same time master may be reading something from the slave. So there should be a two-way communication at the same time. That's why we have these two systems. As the name suggests, it is master out, slave in. Okay, from the master the data is going out, flowing out, and it is going into the slave. And the second line will have master in, slave out. From the slave it's coming to master. So two lines of communication. And since these are two separate lines of communication, you should have now an extra line for selecting the slave, making total 4-line system. So the system looks like this. You have a master, which is my controller. Then you have this MISO, master in, serial out, master out, serial in buses. Then you have the serial clock buses. Okay, the operation goes similar, in line with previous system with these changes. So as it goes, the sequence of operation will be similar to the previous. Initially, here also you have all these pull up resistor not shown in this figure. So usually these lines will be high. So if you want to start the operation, you have to pull this line MOSI or MISO, depending upon whether it is a read operation or write operation, to low. So SCL will be always high, kept at high pulse initially. Then you will be pulling down MOSI or MISO. Then you will be pulling down, or means you will be sending an active low signal through this SS, that is slave select. So here you have only two slaves in the figure, that's why you have these two pins SS1, SS2. When you have more slaves, you would require more number of port pins to be used for controlling these slaves. That is one disadvantage you can say here. If you want, you need more pins, more port pins to control these operation of slaves, addressing the slaves. So SS1 will select this, SS2 will select this. Okay, now have you noticed here that there is no support of acknowledgement mechanism in this communication? Acknowledgement mechanism is not supported here, or basically acknowledgement is not required, since I have separate lines for communication. In the sense, I am going to use this single line for selecting this slave. So I assume that, or I pre-assume that I have sent a low signal, so this slave is supposed to be selected, and I am making this line master out to serial in, sorry, slave in low. That means this line is ready to take the data. So I pre-assume that this particular slave is always active, thereby I don't wait for any acknowledgement signal from the slave. But basically when you go to communication protocols, I say that it's a limitation that SPI, that is serial peripheral interface, does not support an acknowledgement mechanism, but it usually makes the operation faster because master doesn't need to poll, in the sense doesn't need to wait for the signal to be acknowledgement signal to be arrived from the slave. So in this video we have seen broadly two different perspectives of communication interface. One was device or board level communication interface, that is onboard communication interface, and the other one was external communication interface. So onboard communication deal with the communication within the PCB, and offboard communication deals with the communication which is far away system, right? Maybe your sensor or maybe your actuator is far away from the actual system. Maybe a Bluetooth or maybe a Wi-Fi is a better example for offline communication, that is external communication. Then we have seen in detail two types of onboard communication interfaces. One was I2C bus and the other one was serial peripheral interface, that is SPI bus. The advantage of SPI bus over I2 bus was SPI bus supports full duplex operation. But the disadvantages to be named is SPI does not support an acknowledgement mechanism for communication. Thank you.